So hello everyone and welcome to another edition of The Verdict. I am SpraynPray1000 and we are going to talk today about Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. I know that this game came out last year, but I'm finally getting around to reviewing it. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege is the longest in the long-running Rainbow Six line. It is a first-person shooter, primarily multiplayer-based, team-based game where you and your team have to either attack a defending team or defend against attackers in a variety of modes on a variety of maps. Now, one of the biggest things about this game is that, again, Rainbow Six is not like Call of Duty, and it's not even, I would even go as far as say it's not like Battlefield in the sense that it's a very slow-paced, very high-risk game. You do not have regenerating health. You essentially almost cannot regenerate health. There's one character who can heal 3 times around, his teammates or himself. But really, once you get hit, bullets do a lot of damage, and lethality is very high in Rainbow Six. You cannot afford to make a lot of mistakes in Rainbow Six while playing it. And this sort of high-risk, high nature of the game means that people have to be on their A game, essentially just to even win the simplest of rounds, where one person, with the right know-how and the right skills can make the world of a difference just through virtue of playing the game. And that's what I really, really like about Rainbow Six Siege, is that you're not a bullet sponge, you're not a tank, you're not running around. And now each character in the multiplayer, at the start of every round, each person picks a different operator, whether it's from the attackers or the defenders, and each operator has his or her own stats, including various amounts of health, various amounts of damage potential, and various amounts of what they can do in combat. And that really, really lends itself to a game that really has a lot of good stuff going for it. So, for instance, one of the biggest things that I like about Rainbow Six Siege is that the variety of operators on both sides means that each round is probably going to be very different. There's a lot of different things to look out for, and I enjoy that. Attackers at the start of the round will have 1 minute to scout out the opposition, to figure out where they are, where the objective is. Are they rescuing a hostage, where the hostage is, or if it's a bomb mode, where the bombs are, or lastly, if it's a control the area mode, where the area is. And that is essentially one of the most important phases of the game for attackers and defenders. Attackers have to figure out, okay, we need to ID who the enemy team are playing so we know how to counter them. We also need to see if there's traps, if there's alternate ways to get there. There's destructibility in the environment, by the way. Certain characters can break walls, everyone on the attackers essentially gets thermite charges, which allows them to bust down walls. No, excuse me, they get detonation charges. Reinforced walls can be bust down by thermite charges, which only a certain character has. Another character, for instance, can use a sledgehammer to break down walls. Anyone can basically shoot through drywall to make openings that they can see through or shoot through. And again, the defenders, of course, are allowed to reinforce certain walls. They have various abilities that hinder or protect them from attackers essentially coming from various angles. So they all get reinforceable wall kits that allow them to reinforce walls every round. One person gets a radar jammer, which jams electronics nearby and it can stop drones from moving. Another one gets an electric generator, which will electrify metal surfaces. And another one gets bear traps, and another one gets additional cameras. And some defenders are allowed to lurk, which basically means they can go around the map. Their job is not so much to hold fort as it is to attack the attackers from behind, essentially, and make a very offensive play. And really, that's what I like about this game, is that there's variety, again, in both the attackers and defenders. So there's some attackers that play very, very quickly, that strive in those, couple of key hits. There's other attackers that are more like, okay, well, I'm going to take a minute, to be calm and collected and, move slowly about stuff. And that's really, really good. The maps, I'll say, in this game, by the way, all the maps are free. You don't have to buy any of the maps, and the characters that are not that are DLC characters can be bought using in-game amounts of money. a lot of them, but a lot more than typically unlocking other operators. But nonetheless, you can essentially only pay the base amount to get into the game and never pay again. The variety of guns in this game I feel is pretty good. Each character has a certain couple of guns that they're able to use, certain equipment, and you're allowed to customize it before the game, and in the interim between each round you're allowed to change up things for whatever character you pick. Once again, there's no character stacking. You cannot pick multiples of the same character. So if you essentially cannot pick a character because all your characters are taken, you will play as someone called Recruit, who has access to all guns, but unfortunately does not have the necessary defenses. He's basically your typical just run-of-the-mill shoot everyone kind of deal, and that does work. It's not like it's impossible to win with a Recruit, but generally you want to specify and diversify so everyone can handle a certain task. And that really, really, I feel, helps with the game because it makes sure that everyone has a different job, and I think that's really awesome. Now, the multiplayer, again, has a ranked mode and a casual mode. Casual is essentially you just jump in and you play with a team. But you have to remember, again, just because it's called casual does not mean that it's like Call of Duty or team deathmatch style. Each round, once you die, that's it. You're gone. So again, 1 or 2 bullets, you're basically out the game for that round, and you're no longer a help for your team. So the emphasis on team play cannot be stressed enough, although there is room for solo carrying and solo play. So you're allowed to scout and allowed to do a lot of things, but on the flip side, defenders have cameras that they can see you through. They can, while attackers can shoot them out, they still do pose a threat, because you can still see people and you can mark people as for where they are at the moment temporarily. And there's a lot of tools in the toolkit that will allow you to do a lot of cool things in this game. And at least for the multiplayer, this game is really fun. It's really good. And as the antithesis of fast-paced multiplayer goes, I think this game has a nice little niche it carved out where in terms of slow-paced tactical gameplay. So unlike Call of Duty or for instance, fast-paced shooters where you're allowed to just run in, guns blazing, and light people up like Christmas trees. This game, sure, you can light people up, but you have to be tactical, remembering that people will hear where you are, they can hear your footsteps, and it plays a lot more like Counter-Strike mixed with Battlefield Destruction than it will ever play like, Call of Duty running on walls and stuff. And I think that really is important to understand, is that this is not a fast-paced shooter game unless you're really good at that fast-paced reaction time, and even then that's not really what the game is centered around. So one thing I will say, diverting a little bit from the multiplayer here that I like so much, is that the alternate modes in Siege run like crap, and it has been almost a year since the game came out. It came out in December of 2015, and the other modes, namely the terrorist hunt and the situations mode, run like garbage, and that is unfortunate as hell because the multiplayer runs at a nice steady frame rate, good everything, the presentation is fine, it doesn't really dip, but the situations modes and the terrorist hunt modes run like garbage, and that really just makes me wonder, like, how the hell even a year later does this game run like garbage? It has horrible frame rate, and again, you're playing with AI that essentially have near human reaction times. So you need to have at least that locked 30 frames to know what you're doing. And unfortunately, these modes do not provide that. So there's not really too much meat to bite on from the other modes. I mean, while they are fun, it's the presentation of them really kind of drives down the experience. And I'm not even talking like 60 FPS mandatory. I mean, like, these things will dip to like 20, and it'll be bad. Like, you'll be able to see the tearing, and that's not good. That is not something I can pass in good faith and in good mind. Now, hopefully they fix that because this game will have a long life cycle, but at the same time, I can't give that a pass even a year later. It's not good. So the multiplayer, while it is a great aspect of this campaign, gets dragged down by the remainder of the package, which is just nothing more than situations, which is, to more or less test your knowledge and stuff, but that has incredible lag, and terrorist hunt, which, while fun, really plays not that well. Again, the presentation of both those modes is just abysmal. And while I do like that Terrorist Hunt is kind of you versus the AI, and it's tactical in that regard, the very fact that it runs that poorly is just the worst about it. So what will I say about Rainbow Six Siege? It's a good game. If you can have friends that really want to play it, or if you have a group of people you can play with that are willing to play something tactical and slow-paced like it, it's a good game. It's by all means a fun-as-hell game, a good experience, and an enjoyable time. But other than the multiplayer mode, I can't really recommend much about it because it doesn't really run that well. And that's highly unfortunate, I feel. That is pretty abysmal. So I have to knock points off the score mainly because of that. This game also does not have a campaign, so I can't give it any points there. So what would I give Rainbow Six Siege? I'd give Rainbow Six Siege an 86 out of 100. And I do enjoy the package overall, but the problem is, again, that the presentation of the other modes is abysmal. And I think that even just by old school standards could have been better. Otherwise, you have a nice complete package of the multiplayer where you have a variety of modes and a variety of characters to thoroughly enjoy and to thoroughly flesh out and to really have a lot of fun playing with. And I think that that's where the main meat of the game is this multiplayer that even when you're not playing for rank is still very competitive, very high risk, high reward. And that's what really I feel this game is supposed to be about, is having these different characters and classes and matches that are really come down to the wire. Otherwise, Rainbow Six, it's not worth skipping, I'd say, but at the same time, it leaves a lot to be desired in the other aspects. Again, a campaign, a strong narrative would have kind of helped out. A variety of modes that you can enjoy and play in would have helped out. And unfortunately, that ceases to rear its head this time around, for better or for worse. And I'd say this time it's for worse. But otherwise, Rainbow Six Siege is still a solid entry. It could be better, but certainly has a lot of good things going for it, and I enjoyed it. I really had a lot of fun playing, and I'm going to still play it because it's my other off-time game. But yeah, that is definitely a fun experience that I enjoyed a lot. Alright, so with that being said, I will see you guys next time on The Verdict. Have a good one.